Welcome back to the David Watson podcast. Today I spoke with Jeremy Wagner, author, writer, band, just so much, and great conversation. Above all else, great conversation. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello, welcome to the David Watson podcast. Thank you very much for your time, because I know you're extremely busy. And you were just literally telling me about your book launch in Chicago last night. How did it go?
Yes. Oh, it was great. It was at a really awesome bookstore in Chicago. It's called Bucket of Blood Books and Records. So they sell a lot of dark fiction authors, horror, dark crime, and they also carry a lot of really great vintage
Ooh,
paperbacks,
nice.
like those old mass market paperbacks, which I love to collect. And then their music sections fantastic, from like original pressings of vinyl to new releases. More, it's all mostly rock, metal related, and then a lot of horror movies and stuff on DVD, and even old VHS and Betamax tapes and
Ah,
stuff. This is actually the shirt I got last night. That's the place. So anybody tuning into the Dave Show here,
Bucket
if you
of
go to
Blood, books
Chicago,
and
check out
records.
Bucket of Blood. Yeah, it's a fantastic store, and they do a lot of events there with horror authors and stuff, which is great, and musicians too, I think. Yeah.
That's nice. I love that there are people out there that are still dedicated to just paperback, vinyl, and
Yeah.
VHS. You know, just like we're not. I don't know why. I've become grumpy at 51. I'm just pissed off
Yeah.
with electronic devices. And do you want this app for your phone? No, I want to be left alone with just something I can hold in my hand that actually belongs to me and isn't a subscription.
Exactly. I'm on the same page with you, bro. It's like I sometimes when I'm I don't know, like talking to someone about uh reading a ebook or a Kindle or um Apple Music, digital music, between books and music. When I say Old Man Wagner, I use all these things, Apple
Yeah.
Music, and I do Kindle and stuff. But the Old Man Wagner part, I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 55, and I uh, have, as an observation, I've noticed that it seems like those things that are, tangible in your hands,
Yeah.
the physical stuff is coming back. Like younger people want that. I've got a couple of kids in their 30s, Tyler and Zoe, my stepson and my daughter. They love the physical stuff, and their friends do too. And they're hip with, these kids, again, Old Man Wagner, these kids, they all the electronic stuff, but they actually love having vinyl and having
Mm.
a book in their hands and all that stuff. And when we talk about mass market paperbacks from days of yore that are cool to collect, it's like that stuff's like really cool. Like some publishers kind of brought mass market paperbacks back. They're the sort of specialized now
Yeah.
because it's more hardcover or trade paperback. And but some companies are doing mass market paperbacks, and I always love those because they're easy to carry. They fit in your pocket, and unless it's like Stephen King's The Stand or
Yeah.
eh, you know
But there was.
some mammoth
I
book. But
don't.
I like that. I like that stuff. The stuff
Yeah.
you can
I don't know
touch.
if it's true, but I'm sure that was something to do with paperbacks were a certain size because you could put them in your pocket.
Yep.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that has something to do with it. There was a term when I was growing up that I don't hear much anymore, called beach reads, and that's what they would
Yeah.
consider man paperback. You could put it in your pocket, go to the beach during summer,
Yeah.
wherever you live, and read a mass market paperback, instead of
Yeah.
lugging a hardcover or something,
And that's
to
one of
enjoy.
the things I miss with just plain old, like you said about VHS video boxes. Is Is the artwork on the covers, the artwork that used to go into
Ah,
albums. It
yes.
that it's some of the most iconic kind of parts of my culture growing up was artwork on vinyl.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Same. Album covers I bought as a teenager. Sometimes I just buy because of the cover.
mm,
Look cool, and books too as a teenager. Like I'd be drawn in.
yeah,
And when I that launch, Wretch launched last night, I bought a bunch of used mass market paperbacks that the store had, and those covers are so friggin' awesome.
yeah.
They're just cool. And like you said, the same with vinyl. Bands would make these incredible album covers, and you're just drawn into it. I remember as a kid, my mom and dad had Elton John album, Captain Fantastic.
Yep.
And when you open that gatefold, that artwork was on the front and back. And as a kid, the detail, I remember as a kid just looking at every little thing in there. It was just like next level, like
And
really
and that was
got
it,
into.
because you could open these things up, and there would sometimes be hidden surprises inside. And
Yes. Right.
you'd study album covers. Nobody has
Yes.
ever studied Spotify, ever.
No. No.
And we'd have it.
No.
You could have an album, and you'd just be excited to open it up. And
Exactly.
sometimes it,
Reading the liner notes and the
yeah,
lyrics too.
and sometimes it'd be an extra inlay or something, and you'd pull it out, and it'd have something from the actual band or from the artist, and you just, I don't,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was precious.
Yeah, it was. It was precious. It meant the world to you. It was like, wow, this has
Yeah.
got so much aside from the music, just retinal delights, I like to say, from
Mm.
the artwork to the band photos and all the details inside. I just eat that stuff up. And yeah, you're right. You don't go to Spotify and get that experience.
And there's
You just
a sound that I miss, and that's
mm,
when you'd get your record player, and you just had that kind of, it was a silence but a noise of the needle before it hit the groove. It'd be about five
yes,
seconds. I miss that
yes,
sound. You can
yeah.
only get it from a record player.
Yeah, and we have turntables,
Mm.
my wife and I, and we both the whole our family, the kids and my wife Kim and me, we love music. So we've got turntables here, and we were just spinning vinyl the other day, and that point you made is I love that too. Hearing that needle drop and
Yeah.
you hear that as it's in the groups and then the music kicks in, there's a certain magic
Mm.
there.
It's,
I
it's
really love that. And we have like first pressings, like same thing,
yeah.
like Bucket of Blood. We picked up Black Sabbath Volume 4 original pressing. And my wife really likes original pressings of vinyl. Like I like used paperbacks. And I love vinyl too, but she really likes to have original first pressings. And just that, like you said, that experience of exploring the contents of an original pressing to that magic of hearing the needle drop and
Cause,
everything. We try to keep that alive over here
yeah. Well,
still.
because when that needle drops, it's a weird silent announcement that something's going to happen.
Yeah,
It's to
yeah,
pause before the magic.
right, right.
It's just like, oh,
Yeah, exactly. Like when a great motion picture
yeah.
starts, it might be a black screen for a moment, and then title comes up, and then kicks off the film, and yeah, it's like that kind of thing. It's just like God, you're that anticipation, and yeah,
Yeah,
it's cool.
I love it. Just can I just rewind slightly? Where was growing up for you?
So my both sides of my family are from Chicago, the city of Chicago, and the burbs, the northern burbs of Chicago. So. I was born in a town called Libertyville, Illinois, which is north of Chicago, near the what we call the North Shore, which is Lake Michigan, one of the Great
Hmm.
Lakes here. I live on Lake Michigan now. Libertyville, the town I was born in, is just a little bit west of here, and same town that I believe Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine was actually born at the same hospital and grew up in Libertyville. So I was born there. And then at age 3, my parents decided to move to the state of Wisconsin. So we moved to central Wisconsin in the early 70s. And I spent my grade school and junior high years there. And then I returned to Illinois, lived with my father, went to high school, and I've been in Illinois ever since. And that area where I grew up, uh, had, most of my teen years and 20s and 30s was same area, Northern Burbs, a town called Gurnee, Illinois, Gurnee. And it's not too far south of the Wisconsin-Illinois border. And that's where I went to school, high school, and where my band Broken Hope basically formed was Gurnee, Illinois. And so I'm a Chicagoland guy, Chicago roots for my family for sure, and same with my wife and whatnot. And the only other thing now later in life, I do the snowbird thing, and so I'm half the year in the Miami area. As I always tell people in interviews or otherwise, I was born in the wrong climate because
Yeah, yeah, I understand
and
that.
I've always been a wimp with snow. And growing up in Wisconsin, it was even worse, the temperatures than Chicago. The people like Chicago is cold. It's like try central Wisconsin. It's even colder, and the
Mm.
snow was, I mean, it's insane. So so I've been spending half the year going on a decade down in the Miami area. But I'm up north at the moment as we're doing this interview in February, so it's cold.
Yeah,
It's cold here, and I'm not going to complain. I'm here for Wretch, and it's good to see family and stuff and whatnot. So, but yeah, Chicago is that's in my DNA, and Wretch takes place in Chicago as well. So it's kind of like write what you know as a
yeah.
setting. This time I actually did a novel that took place in Chicago.
So, just quick, I'm a kindred soul because I can't stand the cold either,
Mhm.
and luckily the UK doesn't get as anywhere near as cold as like Chicago and Illinois and Wisconsin,
Yeah,
but it's just wet. It is just
yeah.
wet. Today is, I think, today is the first time we've had sunshine this year. It's just,
No kidding.
it's just rained
Wow.
every day. It doesn't rain
Yeah,
all day, but it's just constantly wet. Um,
yeah.
So we've all like, oh my god, there's the sun. Let's go and have a look at it. And but so how does so you started the band in high school? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, Broken Hope. So I Well, 1988 is when we formed. So I would have been a senior in high school, and I had a couple bands before that with schoolmates, trying to start a band. And it wasn't until I met the original singer and drummer for Broken Hope. Joe Thiacek was our singer. Ryan Stanek was our drummer. And unfortunately, those two are no longer with us. But the three of us were the founding fathers of Broken Hope, basically, and in high school. And then after high school, not long after, we had a couple demos out, and were soon signed to a record deal
Oh,
and
nice.
put out our first album in 1991. So, and Broken Hope is still around, and we haven't put out an album in a number of years. It's been at least 6 years, I think, something like that. But we kind of pick and choose what we do now,
Yeah,
and we stay active. We do shows here and there, but not the heavy touring like we used to do and whatnot. But I, as a high schooler, like, uh, like all the things I dreamed of doing kind of happened, like being in a band, being signed to Metal Blade Records, which all these bands I listened to were on Metal Blade, and these little full circle things. So it's been great, looking back, and time flies too, because it's not just a saying. It really, in my experience, it's like time flies. Like I could just remember yesterday sitting in Ryan Stanek's parents' basement, our drummer, and that's where we used to rehearse and coming up with names for bands and coming up with the name Broken Hope. It's so vivid, that's why I'm like, it feels like yesterday, but that was friggin' 40 years ago or something. So,
It's weird, isn't it? Because I find memories like that are not in my head; they're in my heart.
yeah,
And
yeah, I can relate. Yeah,
I don't remember memories like that when I was young. Every memory I had when I was young was up here, but now when
yeah,
I go back to their memories, they've kind of dropped down into my soul. I guess I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
It just
yeah,
and there's always a pang of I want to go back. I do.
yeah.
And it's not the youth thing.
I,
I miss it.
yeah, 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 me too. Me too. When I look back at being just a young man, late teens and 20s, you could throw me, in a VW bus from 1979 and
Yeah.
put me on the road for 10 months. I would be living the dream. I thought, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Now that I'm older, it's like, oh, I don't really want to be in a van for, 10 months. And, again, I sound like old man Wagner, but there's something about going back, that energy and enthusiasm of youth is on a different scale. I'm still enthusiastic about many things in life and try to muster energy at this stage of life to, do things. But it was just when we're younger, it's like on a different level. And you don't realize it, at least I didn't when I was younger, not till I was older. Like, wow, like these years, you got them, make the most of them, because you know, pardon the term, got life by the balls.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
really do.
yeah.
And you could do anything. But it's that whole like, if I only knew then what I know now kind of thing as well. But I'm kind of nostalgic like that,
Oh yeah.
like
I'm
like
very.
like with experiences and the youth, the things I did in my youth, that's part of my heart too, those
No,
memories.
I'm extremely nostalgic for the 80s and the 90s.
Ah, yeah, I loved it. I love the 80s
Yeah,
big time.
yeah, exactly.
90s were great too, but the 80s for me were really special.
Yeah, I was lucky in the sense that because I was born in '74, I kind of
Hmm.
started my senior school in '86. So I was
Hmm.
18 in '92, and
Okay.
so I'd kind of had the '80s cinema and music, but
Yeah.
in the UK because you can drink at 18. In
Yeah.
1992, I'm hitting the pubs and I'm hitting the bars. Do you know what I
Wow.
mean? So
See, that's amazing to me because they're in the US, kind of, well, I was going to say before my time, but I know it was still a thing, but I was just a kid, but you could drink at 18
oh,
uh to a certain they stopped it, I know, in most states back in 80 something, but like you could go to Wisconsin and still drink at
yeah,
age
yeah,
18, But um, that said, what's interesting to me from your experience is being able to drink at 18, where in my case, I couldn't unless there's one window of time where
yeah.
I could have in Wisconsin if I went up there, but I imagine drinking, going, hitting the pubs at 18 gave you a different experience
Well,
in
it
life
is.
because we'd have to get someone to buy
Yeah, yeah.
alcohol for
We could just do it
if
legally.
our parents weren't around or somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, this is it because
You
we
have
could.
the luxury of being able to go to a bar at 18 or whatever.
Well,
So,
you can imagine because you're 18, you're having a few beers. It's all legal. You're in a bar, and nothing helps you pluck up courage to talk to the girl across the bar than having a few beers.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Liquid courage.
yeah, but I think one of the things that was great about that era, just anything up until basically once you get out of the '90s, is because we didn't have mobile phones. You did things on the basis of your mate said. It was a rumor,
Mhm.
and you might drive 100 miles or wherever because somebody said, "Oh, I've heard of this great place. It's amazing," and
Yes.
you take a chance because
Yeah.
you weren't insecure about whether it was going to be fun or not. It's just like, well, let's go and find out. That's the adventure, and
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas now people will look it up to see if it's got a review.
If it's got, yeah, any starred reviews,
Yeah,
and also you can pull up GPS on your phone. Back then you didn't, like, same kind of situation with me, pre-internet and everything. You'd hear of a cool club or something, and
yeah.
you, like, I had a map book, a Chicagoland map book like that thick in my car to get through the burbs and try to find the way to where this address is. You couldn't look it up. There was no internet. There were no smartphones. So that was part of the adventure too.
And
And
you'd
and I,
go to a
I
bar or a club or something to listen to a band that you'd never heard of. You didn't even know who the band were when you turned up. You just took a
right.
chance that they'd play something
Yeah.
you liked, and
Right.
and it would just be live. And she's just like, "Who's playing?" I don't know. Some band called Broken Hope. What are they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
All
I've
right.
never
Let's
heard of them
go.
before.
Let's go check them out.
Yeah, but the amount
Yeah.
of venues you turn up to, because it would just be some bar or club would just do bands every Friday night or something, and you would have no
hmm
clue what the name of the band was. You just turn up because it's a live show.
Right.
And
Yeah, you had heard that the venue
yeah,
was great and cool bands came through there.
yeah,
And,
and
if you're single and looking to date someone, maybe you'll pick someone up and have a
yeah,
girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. That was part of the motivation too of
it is.
youth,
Yeah, yeah, it is.
right? Yeah.
I, I,
So
I tell
it's
somebody,
all part of woven into the package and
yeah.
part of the fun.
Well, I say to people, it's like, a bit like your old man Wagner when I'm doing old man Dave tales. It's just like one of the advantages that we had is because there was no social media, no phones or anything. If you saw a girl you liked, you had to go and ask her. You had to walk over and talk to her because you might not ever see her again.
Right.
So you just
Right.
had to take your shot. And if you got blown
Yeah.
out and shot down, that's life. Move on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you weren't going to find her on social media either. You would
yeah,
make your pitch.
yes,
Like, I was always kind of shy, so I never had, like, what we call game. I never had game. Like, guys, some friends would be fearless,
mm,
trying to pick up girls, and I'd have friends like, again, our old singer Joe from Broken Hope would always be like, "You're too nice. You're too nice." His attitude was, girls want guys to be assholes, and I
yeah,
was always like, I don't want to be an asshole.
yeah, yeah.
I'm nice, but you would hope that whatever, in my case, similar to you perhaps, is you if you did have banter with someone, and you would hope maybe they'd write their phone number down,
That's it.
because after that, you're not emailing them again. You don't know their
Yeah,
social
you'll never see him
handle.
again.
That's
Never see
it.
him again. And
Yeah.
I try and explain to people you had two scenarios. You could walk over there and just take your shot, or you would be telling your mates, and you had about 5 minutes to walk over there. Otherwise, he would. And if he pulled her, you're never living that down. And
Right. Yeah. Right.
and he'd do it just
Yeah.
to spite you because you
Yeah.
didn't have the
Yeah.
balls to go and do it. But just
Exact. Yeah.
we've gone off on a massive segue, which I really appreciated. But
Big time.
how did you? Where did the writing start?
That started in grade school.
Wow.
I'd always been, like, thanks to my mother, I was just captivated by books. And um, growing as a really young kid, I'm talking like, 4, 5, I was already reading. I had all these kids' books, whether it was Maurice Sendak, Where the Wild Things Are, to all these dinosaur books. I still love dinosaurs to this day. I went from, reading kids' books to reading adult fiction by age like 5 or 6. And that was part of me growing up in Wisconsin. We didn't have cable TV, and we had like a black and white television, and we had a lot of music and a lot of books in the house. So I grew up listening to vinyl constantly, which was great. That really got me into music and my mom's book collection. And my mom, to this day, she's a voracious reader, and I vividly remember looking at her bookshelf full of Agatha Christie
Yeah.
mystery novels to horror novels, and soon enough Stephen King had put out his first book, Carrie. My mom had that. Peter Straub, another brilliant author, Ghost Story, which I still love that novel. So I was started reading that stuff, and the first novel I ever read of adult fiction would be Jaws. When Jaws, the movie, came out in '75, the mass market paperback was everywhere, and I was so captivated by the cover of this giant shark
Yeah, yeah, of
coming up
course,
to
yeah.
eat woman swimming. And that just got me into taking a big step up as a kid, tackling a book, adult fiction, but also inspired me to write my own stuff. So I had this book that my grandmother gave me. And I think I have it here, David. I'll show you. It's yeah, I found it. I've had this since I was probably 6. My grandmother, maternal grandmother, gave me this. So
Oh,
it says
wow.
my book here, and it's like a hardcover thing. It
Yeah.
looks like denim. And in here, like I wrote, was writing my first stories
Oh, wow. That's
ever as a kid.
amazing.
And this one, the first thing I wrote was my book adaptation of this really cheesy movie called The Last Dinosaur, which was came out in the '70s, and when I was on TV. So that black and white TV we had maybe got 4 channels,
Yeah.
and I love dinosaurs. So just off of the top of my head, memory wise, eating up that cheesy movie, The Last Dinosaur, and not having a VHS recorder or anything to record it. It was all my memory, and I just wrote down telling the story of the last dinosaur, and then from there it was like I wrote a sequel to Jaws before there was ever a Jaws 2 and stuff. And so this was one part, my very first writings for sure ever as a grade schooler. And it's also one part diary because even as a kid, I remember my schoolmates, the boys would be like, "Oh, girls are gross," and I was always like, "Oh, I like girls." So like, there's some funny stuff in here, like Shelley is beautiful, and then the next page is like Lynn and Nancy, they're beautiful. Like I had crushes on all these girls, and it's like, dear diary, I think Shelley's great, So, but that's where it started, my friend, right here. So I've been writing my own stories since legitimately since a kid, since I was in grade school.
And that was gifted to you by your grandmother, did you say?
Yeah, so this book has lined pages basically. So it's sort of like a notebook pad, if you will,
Yeah.
but it's um,
That's
you know,
priceless.
lines.
Ah,
So
yeah, man.
like it's your
I
own
love that.
book, and like it says, my book. My
Yeah.
maternal grandmother knew I loved. I was scribbling things and whatnot, and she got me this as a gift to put your stories in here, and I've always had that. It's really
That's
talk
no.
about
Yeah, but that's
nostalgia,
that's really
a
beautiful.
precious thing
Yeah.
to me. So
Yeah, no,
uh,
because that's
it's cool to
gifted.
share that with you because when we been talking here, it just occurred to me like, wait a minute, I think I had that in my office, and sure enough, so yep,
I,
that's where it started, man.
I love
Writing
that. I
right
love
there
that.
with that, right
Yeah.
there with that.
because that's the original seed that
Hmm.
everything grew from, right there.
It really is. That really is the original seed where it all started.
That's
Yeah.
fucking hell.
And then from there was writing poetry in grade school and in my teens, dark poetry, short stories. And then once I formed the band, I loved writing so much. And our singer, Joe, wasn't much of a writer. So he was always like, you want to write the lyrics, go for it. Because I always wanted to. So he was always cool with that. And uh, um, so over Broken Hope's career, every album between Joe and Damien, those two singers, I've written the lyrics and turn them in and
Yeah,
say, put them to whatever song we have musically, And so that lyric writing's always been part of my writing process too. They're like, I like to call my lyrics for Broken Hope micro horror fiction,
yeah,
little micro, like the little horror stories, the lyrics. And they're really over the top. And, everything's condensed into a few minutes of music. So it's like, the lyrics are always I've written are of a horror nature and really going for the jugular splatterpunk type of stuff. And again, because the framework of the music, you want to tell that story within 3 minutes or whatever. And the lyrics just pack both a story and a punch and a little bit over the top.
yeah,
And then my regular fiction is still, got a bit of splatterpunk and horror, but when you write short stories and novels, it's a different creature, just like writing scripts and screenplays is a different type of format and whatnot. So all these things just help me as my passion for the craft grew and I worked hard at it, just like, talk about playing guitar, uh, scales and practicing your butt off, what you call woodshedding, right? Same with writing. All the writing for years to you've written millions of words and you got your skills down, your editing skills, you're revising and polishing and telling a great story the best you can or the best I can. It started from here, and then all the lyrics, the poetry, short stories, and finally writing novels. Um, I just kept at it, and
yeah.
it's always been
So
woven in my DNA.
when I was listening to you and obviously watching you talk, when you were talking about writing lyrics and the songs and the short form and going for the juggler, there was
Hmm.
kind of an excitement on your face, as if it's just like I'm going for this, I'm going for this. But that
Yeah,
tone changed when you talked about longer format. So,
yeah.
is there like the songs excite you, but longer format, is that where you would explore something you're not as comfortable with, and like where can I take this danger?
It's um the lyric writing uh in a way uh gives me uh a different approach to using my imagination and telling a story. When I use the term micro horror stories, micro fiction, um, I only got so much room in space to tell a story within the framework of the length of the music song musically. So um, I guess maybe I lit up telling you that because
Yeah,
that I just think about that exercise and it's like there's a pressure there in a good way
yeah,
for me to push myself to really come up with lines that pack a punch because it's such a small amount of space and time to tell the story
yeah,
lyrically. And with when I write novels, my eyes should light up because I love writing long
yeah,
fiction. But that process I'm very passionate about. Getting a first draft done and letting it cool off and having exercise that, like an exorcism, self-exorcism. I exercise this idea out of me that couldn't get out of my head that made me want to write this. And once that first draft is done, it's like, wow, I did it. I'm going to let that cool off for a while and focus on a new work in progress, go through the same kind of thing. First draft is done, go back to that other book and revise it, re-edit it. Because when I return to it, it's all fresh. I
Yeah,
got fresh
yeah,
eyes. I've been focused on a different subject or story. And that's part of the magic. And I love the stuff that some people might find tedious and boring, like editing and
okay,
revising. Actually, that's what I always say is part of the passion. I actually enjoy that part of the craft and flexing my skills as a writer to make that particular book, work in progress, whatever it is, the best it can be till I'm like, this thing's ready to be published or used or whatever. And I always say this when I get on the subject of passion is whether you're a painter or you like wood carving and making wood birdhouses or growing a garden
yeah,
or working on cars or making your own car. Like you would do these things whether you became successful or not
yeah,
because you love it and you're doing what you love in life. And I always urge people to do what you love in life. You got one lap around the track, as far as I know, unless you come back reincarnated as something. You got one lap around the track, make it count
yeah.
and do what you love. No, and don't listen to noise. Like people saying, you'll never do this, you'll never do that. Do what you love and enjoy your life. And if something you create takes off, and you make a livelihood out of it, that's a big bonus. But again, passion for me, I do music and write books, whether I had a record deal or not, or had a publishing deal or not, because I
Yeah.
love it. Writing books and music, playing guitar.
How do you allow the ideas to happen and not interfere with them?
As far as like where the where the
Because you said
seeds are planted for ideas or
when you were talking, you said that you get to a point where a story appears and you have to get it down. You have
oh
to.
yeah.
So, because I've found in the past when I used to write a lot, that there's an art to not trying to control the idea, but let the idea just speak to me.
Yes.
And
That I I can totally relate to that because in my process of writing, it'll always start with I can get an idea sometimes out of the blue. I could be at the grocery store getting a box of cereal and something will trigger me to like I'll get some idea off of something benign
yeah,
sometimes. I have an overactive imagination, and I think that's a great thing. And I think that's the way I grew up because being
yeah,
in the country, I had to use my imagination. I didn't have a million different channels of entertainment or anything to humor me. So I'll get an idea out of nowhere sometimes, and that turns into always like a what if. That also is part of where it starts. What if this happened? And then I keep thinking about it, and it'd be something where it's like, I think I got something here that I really want to write about. And then I'll start writing ideas down by hand or whatever, and coming up with characters in my head that I kind of know what they're going to do. I'll make like a loose outline, like a roadmap of sorts, sort of like the A, B, C, and D will happen, and I'll pin that up. But once I start writing and think I know what's going to happen, once I'm in a real zone, say writing, aiming for 1,000 or 1,500 words a day, the magic of that is I get in a zone where I'm channeling,
yeah,
and these characters do things I never saw coming. They surprise me. And that I always say that's magic right
yeah.
there. It is pure magic. And anyone that's tuning into this episode, hearing me say this, who doesn't write, it might sound funny. Like, what do you mean your characters take on a life of their own or whatever? It's the best way I can explain it. They really do. They're just flowing out of me. I'm in their point of view,
Mm.
and I might have ideas written on paper on that roadmap of what they're going to do, and they do completely different things. It's just flowing out of me. It's really, again, magic. That's the
Mm.
best thing I could use to articulate what I'm, doing and thinking with how it comes out, you know.
Yeah, no. When I wrote my book, I actually put in the foreword that I don't. It's not my story. Somebody else was telling it to me because it just
I like that.
when I was in the zone, I just
I like that.
it was always felt like I was waiting for them to carry on talking.
Right.
And I
You
couldn't.
know what? That's really awesome, David. That's exactly like I didn't write it, they did.
Yeah,
When you're in the point of view of a character, a tight point of view in a chapter of a character, they're coming alive and they're playing out what they're doing.
yeah.
You're just writing about it.
A
Yeah.
podcast is just me verbally writing because
Hmm.
I just create a space where I listen to somebody. The only thing
Yeah.
is, I'm not writing this down. I'm recording it.
Right.
Don't make
Yeah.
this. And that's
Yeah.
how I see it. It's just be curious about someone's passion, and they'll talk to you about it.
Yeah.
That to me is be curious about the character's passion, and they'll tell you what to write.
Right.
It's just,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
it just you have to create a space to listen to them,
Yeah.
and then they just tell me the story every time.
You got to give them their wiggle room,
Yeah,
as I say,
yeah.
to get out what they want to get out.
And
Yeah.
that's that kind of thing. Like that's what I think was probably what I was trying to ask about. How do you get out the way of the idea? Because it's just like how do you let them talk and you shut up and listen? It's, and
Exactly. That's exactly what I do. You know, I don't get hung up with the control or let anything get in the way. What you said is dead on accurate. I let them do the talking,
yeah.
give them the breathing room, let it flow out. They're telling me what's going on. Exactly.
And the your latest book, give us some background and how that come about.
So Wretch, the ideas for Wretch have been around for a long time. And when I say the ideas, there's basically three storylines happening throughout Wretch, and they all are somewhat related to Write What You Know, which is like certain people I met over decades or have done things or had a impact on me that I didn't forget. So the characters in Wretch are loosely associated with people I've met in real life, and a bit of that, and also a bit of the what if. So Wretch originally had a different title, and I'm talking like years ago. And talk about things getting in the way, like life and other books got in my way with Wretch. Like I've had Wretch around for a while, but other books became a priority and this and that. But the gist of it, I had down, and like the main protagonist, Detective Donnie Lynch. Um, is a Chicago police detective. The whole story takes place in the city of Chicago during the hottest summer days on record. The summers here in Chicago are brutally hot, and a lot of people might be surprised to hear that, but it gets so hot that unfortunately a number of people die. Usually a lot of older people, but people die of whatever, heat, stroke, exhaustion, that kind of thing. So my story takes place during a few days, which are in my novel, The Hottest Days on Record in Chicago, fictionally, and Detective Donnie Lynch. I knew nothing about being a detective, but I knew a detective had to be one of the main characters, um, because of the antagonist and what was involved with that, these ideas I had. So, a guy in Chicago who I'm friends with named Peter Kokonis, he was a Chicago police detective. He worked for the CPD for 38 years, and he had done it all from being a beat cop on the street after police academy, and then became a detective. And he had done everything from being undercover, like Donnie Brasco type of thing with
Yeah.
organized crime guys, to internal affairs, to gang task forces. Um, I mean, he told me so many insane stories that that guy should do a memoir, because what he experienced was just incredible. Like this Pete's like I think at least 6 foot tall. He's a big guy. And back in the 70s, I've seen pictures of him. Right now he's a clean shaven, white haired man, up there in age. And I've seen pictures of him in the 70s when he was a cop, and he had a what we call a cop
Yeah.
mustache. And he had a big, he's a Greek guy, and he had this big brown brownish black hair, like afro. It's just this
Yeah.
big 70s white guy afro, and he that big guy with that big 70s hairdo would go undercover as a female prostitute, and he'd shave his mustache and put on high heels and shit. And they bust Johns and stuff. I mean, the stories were endless and endless. So he basically consulted me on, I wanted to get facts and procedures and things down as accurate as I can. With fiction, you have you have liberties where you can tell someone's story, what they do, off the top of your head, make it up, or you can do research and try to get it accurate. And I love research because I always learn something new. So I wanted to get this character's detective character's work. People like to read about what someone does. I find it fascinating, even in fiction. And with Peter Kokonis, Sergeant Pete, I call him, he gave me all the way people what they do at a crime scene, forensics, what a day in the life of a cop is like, how stretched thin the Chicago Police Department is. They can't. There's not enough cops to cover the entire city sometimes, where there's gangland shootings and all this stuff. And so with all that, interviewing Sergeant Pete, it really helped me develop this character, because the other two, I said there's three storylines. So the talk Detective Donnie Lynch, and then the main antagonist, Derek Hoffman, is this 6'5" hulking, steroid abusing sociopath. And I knew a guy like that who was an amateur professional wrestler years ago when I was in my 20s, right around 1991 when Swamp Thing Gore was coming out. I remember this guy I knew who was out of his mind. You hear about what they call
Yeah.
roid rage
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
steroids, and he would, have his girlfriend inject steroids, in his butt cheek, and he'd take oral ones too, and he's worked out all the time and tanned himself like Hulk Hogan, the famous wrestler, and uh, he had a hair trigger temper, and I just remember him, observing him lose it and looking to pick fights and just be out of his mind. That always stuck with me. And that's where another what if thing came up. Like, what if this guy had never murdered anybody, but was so violent and had such a long criminal history? What if something put him over the edge to where he was so out of his mind, he was killing anybody and anything in sight? And so I put Derek Hoffman in a pharmacological research program for a big company, a fictional company called Pathos Labs, which is like, like Pfizer and
Yeah.
these big pharma, the horrors of big pharma, basically. He enters this program to make money as a human guinea pig, which is true thing. I did one of these programs for a place called Abbott Labs in my 20s. And that's in the back of the book. I have an afterword telling where I got some of these ideas from. And the whole what if Derek Hoffman, a guy who's just a hair away from killing someone and is a roided out juggernaut of a like Frankenstein's monster, basically, goes over the edge because he took this experimental ED drug in a pharmacological program, this fictional ED drug called libidinol, which is this red pill, not a blue one like Viagra. And that human guinea pig kind of thing with that guy's personality and everything. What if that sent him over the edge and he was just berserk? You got a chemically fueled big pharma monster who escapes that program. He's out on the streets of Chicago, and the things he does to some other people gets Donnie Lynch, the detective, wanting to find this guy. But one of the people that um, wants him really bad because Derek Hoffman did something really bad to a family member of the biggest mob boss in Chicago, Tico the Meat Grinder Tortellio, which that character is based on um, some organized crime figures from Chicagoland. I'm also fascinated with organized crime. So Chicago, that we here in Chicago, it's called the Outfit, but it's basically the mafia, and
Yeah.
New York's five families, the Gambinos and Genovese and Lucchese and on and on. So um, I, from my knowledge of the history of Chicago organized crime to meeting, well, knowing some associates in Chicago that were related to crime families and stuff, gave me the idea for Tico and Tico Tortellio. And he's a guy that's like Vito Corleone in The Godfather, or even in real life, like Carlo Gambino, who was the head of the Gambino crime family. These are people that are at the top of the food chain of their organized crime family, but they keep themselves insulated
Yeah.
by having these buffers, these soldiers, and all these, capos and stuff who do their dirty work for them. So if someone gets busted, the big guy is safe. Like I had nothing to do with that, right? But Tico is almost like Derek Hoffman with the rage and the, history of violence and stuff. But these are guys too who are flawed. When you read their backstories and who they care about in their lives, it humanizes them too. But they are human monsters. So anyway, it you when Tico, the meat grinder Tortellio, Derek Hoffman, and Detective Donnie Lynch, these three storylines, they're all related because you got the detective and Tico looking for Derek Hoffman. And at some point, they're going to converge. And Donnie knows that Tico has got to be after Derek for, I don't want to spoil anything for
No.
anyone who reads much, but what he does, he becomes aware. Donnie Lynch, the protagonist, detective, knows that Tico's gonna is hunting this guy too. Donnie wants to get to him before Tico and see justice done. Whereas Tico, if he gets his hands on him, they'll never find him again. He'll be,
Yeah.
there's a reason he's nicknamed the meat grinder. And because of what Derek Hoffman did, he comes out of that insulated cocoon and says, I'm going to get my hands dirty and get for what this guy did myself,
Yeah.
and he has a couple of sons, twin sons. Tico's got twin sons who he's trying to bring up, and they're of that age, they're addicted to media and their iPhones and having social media accounts, which is like horrifying to Tico because like it's like what we do, like you guys aren't rock stars or you're not in the movie Goodfellas. This what you post can get us in trouble, you dumbasses. Like there's that dynamic. So anyway, those three storylines at some point converge. And just when you thought there's enough chaos and carnage and crazy things happening, uh, the best is yet to come. So that's where it started years ago. Some of the things I drew upon and experienced, I wove into there, and the rest was all what we discussed earlier. They told me what they were
Yeah.
doing. Yeah. And here we are. Wretch came out yesterday, and it was wonderful to see it come out. I was so happy because it's been with me a long time.
Yeah, well, because this
I
is
exorcised the demon,
yeah,
David.
yeah.
Like
But it is because some
yeah,
people don't realize that with writing that sometimes the idea might take 10, 15, 20 years, but
yeah,
it haunts you, and, and
yeah.
and eventually you kind of figure out how
It-
to release it.
and there's ideas I've had, other ideas I've had for 10 or 20 years, and there's even you could relate this to like an analogy, if you will, musically. There's riffs
Mm,
I've been sitting for 20 years that I try to record all the when I think I have a great riff, I try to make sure I record it so I don't forget it. The same way, like I said earlier in this interview, where like I could be at the grocery store getting a
yeah,
box of cereal and doing it something benign, but get this most crazy, horrific idea for a story. I get my phone and I send myself an email, idea, blah 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 blah, and send it to myself so I don't forget.
yeah,
Like record riffs so I don't forget. So, like I know there's certain riffs. Um, Jeff Hanneman of Slayer, who's no longer with us, one of the chief songwriters of the band, who, for me personally, wrote my favorite Slayer riffs, right? Would read in interviews where he's like asked about a song, and he'd be like, "Oh, I was sitting on these riffs for 20 years, recorded them on my 4-track recorder in my home studio. And it just was about the right place and the right time for it to come out. So, same type of thing, you just keep these ideas and sometimes they're not maybe ready to come to life. It might take time. And then there's a right place and right time where it's like, that'll work
yeah.
story wise or musically.
It
Yeah.
is. It's. I think sometimes these are they're expressions of experiences, and what you don't realize is you haven't had the experience yet, so you can't express it.
Right.
But once
Yeah.
that kind of timeline connects, it's like, oh, this is what that's about.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You know, and that unfortunately can take 20 years.
Yeah.
But it
Yes.
just
Yeah.
sits there in the back of your head
Yeah.
every now and again, just knocking on the door, saying, just in case you've forgotten, I'm
And
still
and
here."
and, and that's what Wretch was for me. It was like a ghost haunted me. It's always been in my head. And then when I, had earlier drafts done and got the meat, the bones of it in a first draft, second draft. That was a great feeling because it had been bugging me for so long. But the other thing, despite that, as time
Yeah,
went on and other things, life, like I said, getting in my way with projects and different things that became priorities, that story was always there. And just like you said, we're saying it was like knock, knock, knock. I'm still here. When are you gonna
yeah,
get me out? You know, that was Wretch. It's
wow.
it's been a long time coming, basically, and that's another reason I'm just so thrilled that it's out in the world.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's important because you said it's exercising demons, And
Right.
people don't always understand that if you have something creative in you, that there's almost kind of a schizophrenia of voices all trying to get your attention because they want to be heard, and you have to
Yes.
kind of juggle this. How do I let them tell me what they want? And
Right.
it's not simple.
No, it's not that simple.
Yeah,
No.
I know. And when you tune into a flow, it's like listening to the radio and an old track comes on. You're like, oh wow, and you're catapulted somewhere and you're back in there, and it's great. But if you're not in that place, it's the frustration of not of being in a no signal area. It's just white
Right.
noise, and you're
Yeah.
just like, ah,
Yeah.
so
It that's a great analogy. That's the feeling I get,
yeah,
because you're frustrated to a certain degree. You're like, God dang it, I can't wait
yeah,
to tackle this, that anticipation of really diving in and making it happen, but it's pushed off. So you're like, God dang it, when am I going to get to this? You just can't wait to get to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just lastly, this is
Yeah.
I've got two questions. Where can people find you?
You can find me if you're looking for me on social media. I believe my handle is the same across the board. So it's at Jeremy, Jeremy X Wagner, Wagner. I don't have a middle name, so I'm like Jeremy X Wagner works. So all my social media handles are that. And then my website is also jeremyxwagner.com. And that's got all my books, links to my books, all the synopsis of each title, and then all my music that I put out with Broken Hope, my other band Earthburner, and other news and all that good stuff. So Jeremy
Cool.
X Wagner, you can find me, and then Wretch, same thing, between my own social media links, like in my profile in bio. There's the website, of course, again with the books and whatnot you can order from. And then my publisher, Dead Sky Publishing, their website, deadskypublishing.com, has a bunch of different links and options of where
Yeah,
a reader might want to purchase from if they have a preferred retailer or whatever. So I'm pretty easy to find, and Wretch is really easy to find and get.
cool. My last question, and it's just random for my own entertainment. I want you to imagine you have a time machine. The
Okay.
the time machine is a car of your choice. What would the car be? Where would you go? And what would be playing on the radio?
Um, so if I go back in time and I could pick any car I
Yep.
wanted, and we talk about cars that were
Anything. No
actually
rules.
made or even in
No.
movies.
Anything you want. It's
Okay. So um, I would love to be able to have the exact uh, car used in Mad Max and the Road Warrior.
yeah.
It was the V8 Interceptor,
Yep.
and have that with the V8 blower and all that, and just be able to drive like Mad Max and hit the booster and shift, and uh, even have the Australian blue healer in the back,
Yeah. Yeah.
and go, 150 miles an hour down the road and take out bad guys. Or just drive 150 miles an hour and have the V8 Interceptor, period. That
Yeah.
for me would be pure joy. So that, my friend, is my dream car, and what I would love to go back in time, even now,
Mm.
have that car.
What would
That's
be
my
playing on the
dream
radio?
car. What's that?
What would be playing on the radio? What would your
Oh,
music of choice be?
it would have to be something slamming, like uh probably Slayer's Rain and Blood album. When that album came out, I told you I grew up in Gurnee, Illinois. That's where I went to high school.
Yeah.
And my morning ritual was Rain and Blood's like 28 minutes long. And when it came out on cassette back in the day,
Oh man.
uh, the whole album fit on both sides of the cassette. So the record label, Def Jam Records, put the entire Rain and Blood album on side A and side B. So my morning ritual would be get up for school. My dad was already off to work. I'd eat my breakfast, my cereal, jump in the shower. But as I jumped in the shower, I had a boombox
Yeah.
on my sink and I'd hit play and I would shower and headbang in the shower with my long hair and wash my body for 28 minutes. And by the time Rain and Blood was done, I was combing my hair, dressing off to school. So because we're talking about going back and what would play,
Yeah.
that V8 Interceptor came out of the 80s. Slayer's Rain and Blood came out of the 80s, and I just think that would be the perfect driving music for that situation, behind the wheel. Yeah.
And that's
And
a,
I'm a huge Bee Gees fan, but I just don't think I'd be blaring the Bee Gees in that
in
in
that
my
scenario.
want to have yeah, like I'd want to have Max's Rocket Max Rocketansky's leather cop uniform. I love the costume too,
Yeah.
so I want all that shit with the shoulder pads and whatnot. So that would be the car, and that would be my driving music
That's
to go along.
perfect. Jeremy,
Yeah.
this has been brilliant. Thank you very much for your time. I have appreciated it.
Oh, thanks for having me on. It's been a real pleasure. I appreciate you inviting me as a guest. It means a lot. And it's been great chatting with you, David. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.
It's been fantastic. It really has. And there you go. That was Jeremy. And it's always fascinating to me that I think one of the things that successful writers do the most or do the best is they embrace the process. They embrace it right down to its very core. They don't fear it. They love it. They all have their own relationship with it, but they don't hide from it. And I think Jeremy explained that just so perfectly. And you could see from the way his face was lighting up just how much he enjoys the process. And it was a wonderful conversation, and extremely grateful for that. And as I say that, I would just, again, as always, like to say thank you to everybody that listens, everybody that takes the time out to support me. It is appreciated. And wherever you're from, whatever you believe, please do take care and be blessed. Thank you.